The series begins with an attack on a cruise ship at the hands of Alvida. Kobe, a slave of Alvida, discovers a barrel and a young boy emerges and stops the pirates, saying that his name is Monkey D. Luffy. Kobe reveals his dream of being a marine, and Luffy knocks the pirate crew down with his devil fruit power. He explains that he ate the gum fruit, therefore he has the properties of rubber. Kobe, inspired by Luffy, stands up for himself when Alvida confronts them and takes her down. They sail away in a borrowed boat where Luffy asks about the pirate hunter and announces his intention of asking him to join his crew. Luffy and Kobe arrive at an island with a large marine base, where Luffy discovers the swordsman, Roronoa Zolo, tied to a pole. He asks Zoro to join his crew, but Zoro refuses. Luffy and Kobe meet a girl named Rika in town, tells them how Helmeppo brought his vicious pet dog into their bar and that Zoro knocked it out to protect everyone inside. He then made a deal with Helmeppo: if he can survive being tied to a pole with no food or water for 30 days, then Helmeppo will spare the little girl and her mother. However, Helmeppo says that he will execute Zoro the next day despite his word. Luffy punches him, and Helmeppo runs off to tell his father, Captain Morgan. While Luffy invades the Navy base to find Zoro's swords, Kobe attempts to untie Zoro and explains the situation to him. Morgan orders that they are both to be executed. The soldiers open fire, but before the bullets can reach them, Luffy leaps from the base and uses his rubber body to block the bullets. Luffy hands the 3 swords to Zoro in exchange for Zoro joining his crew. He and Morgan then engage in battle and Luffy knocks him to the ground. Meanwhile, Helmeppo takes Kobe hostage. But Luffy strikes him down too, while Zoro takes out Morgan right before he can kill Luffy. Later, Luffy, Zoro, and Kobe are in the town restaurant with Rika and her mom. The Marines step into the restaurant, and as Luffy and Zoro are pirates, they must leave the island immediately. Luffy and Zoro get ready to go, but so that he won't ruin Kobe's chances of enrolling in the Marines. Luffy beats him to near death in order to trick the Marines before they leave. As they do, Kobe asks to join the Marines, and is accepted. Outside, Luffy and Zoro climb into their boat, and as they set sail, the Marines salute them for saving the town, including Kobe. In a flashback, a 7-year-old Luffy sits in a bar filled with the pirate crew of the red-haired Shanks, begging him to take him out to sea. But the pirate captain refuses. A bandit named Higuma enters and orders several barrels of booze. Shanks offers him the last bottle, but Higuma smashes it and humiliates Shanks. After the bandit leaves the bar, all of the pirates start to laugh. Luffy gets angry that Shanks did not fight back and in a huff eats a purple fruit lying on the bar. Shanks notices this and tries to make Luffy spit it out, but it was too late. Shanks tells Luffy that he just ate the gum devil fruit, and now he is a rubber man and won't be able to ever swim again. Later, Luffy gets attacked by Higuma and his bandits. He is about to be killed, when Shanks and his crew arrive and effortlessly defeat Higuma's men. Frightened, Higuma escapes, taking Luffy with him to the sea. There he throws him into the water. And as Higuma laughs at Luffy's plight, a sea king appears and devours him. The sea monster then goes for Luffy, but Shanks stops the sea monster as it takes a bite, and with one look, drives the beast away. Luffy clutches Shanks and starts crying, since Shanks' arm was bitten off by the creature. Shanks replies that it is fine, as long as Luffy is safe. As the pirates get ready to leave, Luffy decides he will become a pirate on his own, that he will gather a crew that will beat Shanks, and that he will become king of the pirates. Shanks gives his straw hat to Luffy and tells him to return it someday, as a great pirate. Back in the present, Luffy slingshots into the sky to catch a bird. Instead he is caught himself. Zoro, now alone in their boat, tries to keep up, paddling. On his way he picks up 3 castaways from Buggy's crew. The bird, carrying Luffy, flies over a town, where it is shot down. Luffy falls down and lands right in front of Nami, who is running away from Buggy's crew for stealing their Grand Line map. Nami pretends that Luffy is her boss, using the distraction to escape from Buggy's men. After Luffy beats them, she asks him to join her. Then Luffy finds out that she is a navigator, and asks her to join his crew of pirates. As she hates pirates, she refuses. Then she tricks Luffy into letting himself be tied up and brought to Buggy, where he is locked up in a small cage, while Nami fakes joining Buggy's crew. As proof of loyalty, Buggy demands of Nami to kill Luffy, but she cannot bring herself to do it. As Buggy's pirates attack her, Zoro arrives to save his captain. Buggy recognizes Zoro as the pirate hunter and attacks him. Zoro cuts Buggy into pieces. Believing Buggy to be dead, he sheaths his swords and is stabbed in the back by Buggy, who reveals he ate the chop fruit and can separate his body and is impervious to being cut. The wound puts Zoro at a disadvantage, yet he picks up the cage with Luffy inside and the three escape. Still trapped in the cage, Luffy meets a small dog named Chaochu guarding his master's store despite knowing that his owner is dead. Moji the beast tamer's lion, Richie, inadvertently breaks Luffy's cage open and sends him flying. Chaochu tries to protect the store, but is no match for the much stronger Richie, and Moji burns the store down. Angered by Moji destroying what the dog finds precious, Luffy mercilessly punches him out. Moved by Luffy's concern for the dog, Nami agrees to work with Luffy for the time being. Enraged by the actions of Buggy's crew, the city's mayor rushes to fight Buggy himself, but the Straw Hat pirates come to his rescue, with Luffy knocking him out to prevent him from getting himself killed. Zoro fights Kabeji, despite still being wounded, and defeats him while Nami leaves to search for the map to the Grand Line. Luffy begins fighting Buggy, who knows that he can injure Luffy's rubber body by cutting him, and enrages him by damaging his straw hat. Buggy reveals that Shanks accidentally caused him to eat the devil fruit he had been planning to sell while they were apprentice pirates on the same ship, preventing him from finding an underwater treasure. Nami manages to steal Buggy's body parts and Luffy sends him flying with Gum Gum Bazooka. Luffy, Nami and Zoro are forced to flee town as the villagers discover what Luffy did to the mayor, and he identifies himself as a pirate, but the mayor thanks the three as they leave. When they land on another island, Usopp appears to greet them, with three children hiding in the bushes. After a failed attempt on Usopp's part to scare the pirates away, they talk about Shanks and his marksman Yasopp, Usopp's father. Usopp brings them to a restaurant, where after a meal, he leaves them to head for a mansion outside town. The mansion belongs to the sickly young woman Kaya. She and Klahadore, her butler, talk about Usopp, and Klahadore forbids her to see him. Usopp comes anyway, and he tells Kaya a story about fighting a giant goldfish with droppings the size of islands. Back at the restaurant, Usopp's small friends, the Usopp pirates, enter in search of their captain. They bring Luffy, Zoro, and Nami to Kaya's mansion, and tell them how Usopp tells Kaya lies to cheer her up since her parents died and she became ill. Luffy decides they should ask her for a ship, and as there are bodyguards guarding the gate, he slingshots the whole group over the fence. They crash into the ground near Usopp, and as they get up, Klahadore comes out and calls them intruders. Klahadore goes on about how Usopp's father is a filthy pirate, making Usopp livid and punch him in the face, and leaves. The Usopp pirates, Nami, and Zoro encounter Django, who claims to be only a passing hypnotist. He then hypnotizes them, and accidentally himself, into falling asleep in the middle of the road. Later, by a cliff overlooking the ocean, Luffy and Usopp witness Django and Klahadore, whose true identity turns out to be that of the infamous pirate Captain Kuro, plotting a raid of the village and a murder of Kaya. Luffy yells at them not to get rid of Kaya, but Django uses his hypnotism to put Luffy to sleep, causing him to fall off the cliff. Usopp, because of his reputation as a liar, is unable to convince the villagers that pirates are coming and that they have to abandon their homes. Meanwhile, Zoro and the others find Luffy. At Kaya's mansion, Mary shows Kaya the glasses that she got him to buy for Klahadore's third year of being a caretaker. Usopp is unable to convince Kaya of Kuro's assassination attempt and leaves, but gets shot by Mary in the process. Kuro announces his plans to attack the village at dawn. Usopp, admitting he's a liar, expresses how he loves the village and wants to protect it, so he will stand against the pirates. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami decide to join him, and so Usopp declares that even though he is scared, he will fight. The group formulate a plan on the slope for when the pirates come. Kuro breaks the glasses Kaya gave him, and he holds his blood-stained claw over her head, remembering the deed he has to commit the following day. By the coast, the Black Cat pirates' ship approaches Syrup Village. Meanwhile, Luffy, Usopp, Zoro, and Nami stand on the slope leading to the village, and have poured a barrel of oil on it to make it slippery. The plan is that when the Black Cat pirates slip on the oil, the four will spring out and attack them. Dawn breaks, and after things goes horribly wrong, the Black Cat pirates arrive, and Usopp stands up to them. He sees the pirates taking the treasure from the Straw Hat's ship, and he says that the treasure belongs to him, and he'll give it to them if they leave. Django decides to hypnotize Usopp instead, but Nami arrives in the nick of time and whacks Usopp in the head, knocking him over, refusing to give up her treasure. The Black Cat pirates charge and knock him down swiftly. Moments later, Usopp is shocked and they are all sent flying back, and sees that Luffy and Zoro have arrived. Zoro yells at Nami about leaving him there, and Luffy yells at Usopp for not telling him which direction was north. Django kneels beside the fallen pirates and starts to hypnotize them to charge at the Straw Hats. Luffy, who was also hypnotized, uses his Gum Gum Gatling technique to plow through and takes the bow of Kuro's ship before he falls asleep. With Luffy out of the way, Django prepares for the next attack. Seeing the pirates are defeated, he calls for Siam and Buchi, who charge for Zoro and engages in a great fight with the two Miaoban brothers. Buchi then uses his cat-like abilities to steal Zoro's two swords and throws them away. Usopp decides to help and fires at the brothers, but Zoro blocks it with his back, yelling at Nami and Usopp to not get themselves killed. Nami then runs for Zoro's swords, picking them up, but Django reacts swiftly and slashes her in the shoulder with his chakram. Just as Django and the others are about to kill the Straw Hats, Kuro appears, annoyed that his plan has foiled. Zoro manages to get back his swords, and thanks to Nami, he unleashes a great Toragiri, taking both of them down with one mighty swing. Luffy wakes up and saves Nami. At the mansion, Kaya finds Mary leaning against the wall, bloody and wounded. She explains the whole situation, how Kuro is planning to kill her and take her money in a will. Kaya realizes that Usopp was right and arrives at the top of the slope pointing a gun at Kuro, ordering him to leave the village. Kuro reminds Kaya of the fun times they had together. Before he takes the gun from her hands, knowing she won't shoot, and drops it to the ground. Usopp picks up the gun and fires at Kuro, but he fails. From out of nowhere, Luffy punches Kuro in the face and declares that he has 100 more where that came from. They begin their fight. Usopp orders the kids to run away with Kaya, but Django goes after them, and Zoro follows carrying Usopp in order to find the way. A flashback reveals that Kuro faked his death by hypnotizing one of his men into claiming to be him, and hypnotizing Captain Morgan to think that he caught him, before becoming Kaya's butler. Kuro uses his silent step to move quickly, but Luffy gets the timing right and pounds Kuro down. In the forest, Django continues searching for the Usopp pirates, and they ambush him, but he knocks his attacker away, and just as he is holding up a chakram to kill Kaya, Usopp spots him. Kuro's ultimate attack, Shikushi, slash everything, and Luffy becomes enraged by his lack of regard for his crew. He manages to catch Kuro by binding his limbs and headbutts him with Gum Gum Bell, while Usopp shoots Django with an exploding star, saving Kaya. After the fight is over, Usopp convinces Kaya and the Usopp pirates to keep the incident a secret in order to enable the village to stay peaceful. Kaya gives the Straw Hats the Going Merry as a gift, and Luffy invites Usopp into the crew, having befriended him. On their voyage, Luffy announces that he has finished the pirate flag for their ship, and holds it up, making the others horrified of the artwork, and so Usopp paints a proper pirate flag that they fly it on the mast and continue to sail. While Usopp and Luffy fool around with the ship's cannon, Zoro dreams about his childhood. He had joined a dojo after losing to the teacher's daughter, Kuina. Despite training and growing stronger, he still was unable to defeat her. When she told him that he would one day defeat her as she grew weaker, Zoro becomes upset over her defeatist attitude, and made her promise that one of them would be the world's greatest swordsman. She died soon afterward due to a tragic incident, and Zoro dedicated himself to fulfilling the promise. Back in the present, a bounty hunter attacks the ship. Zoro recognizes the intruder who got beat up by Luffy as Johnny, who alongside Yasaku were all bounty hunter partners some time ago. Johnny, however, is more worried about Yasaku's condition, which Nami quickly diagnosed as scurvy caused by a lack of vitamin C, and the Straw Hat Pirates conclude that they need a cook for their potential nutritional problems. Johnny points out that they probably can find a good candidate in the floating sea restaurant known as Baratai. He also states that the one Zoro has been looking for, Hawkeye's Mihawk, is near there too. They are then passed by a Marine lieutenant, Iron Fist Full Body, who orders his crew to sink the pirate ship. Luffy attempts to deflect the cannon, but after losing his grip accidentally deflects it to the head chief's room in Baratai, where the head chief was subsequently injured and demands that Luffy work off his crime by working for the restaurant for 1 year. In Baratai, while attempting to impress his girlfriend, Full Body instead becomes humiliated by Sanji's witty remarks and destroys his table full of food, causing Sanji to beat him up. Patty, a cook for Baratai, becomes furious when he sees that Sanji is beating up Full Body, who is a customer. At this moment, the head chef and Luffy come crashing down from the ceiling because the head chef was kicking Luffy too hard. He then kicks Full Body out of the restaurant as his subordinate comes running into the restaurant yelling that their prisoner, a member of Don Krieg's pirates, has escaped. The customers are terrified because Don Krieg is supposedly the strongest pirate in East Blue. The pirate name is Jin, and after being kicked by Patty, Sanji brings him a meal, stating that, for him a customer is anybody who is hungry and he understands the feeling of starvation more than anybody else. Luffy, who was watching the whole thing, attempts to recruit him as the cook for his crew. After refusing and some conversing, Sanji sees Nami and is captivated by her beauty. Don Krieg shows up on a nearly destroyed ship and demands 100 meals for his men, as well as the restaurant ship. The cooks oppose Sanji, but Zeph agrees to prepare the food. It is revealed that Chef Zeph was a great pirate known as Redfoot Zeph who sailed in the Grand Line, but lost his leg at some point. Jin explains the catastrophe the fleet met in Grand Line when they encountered Hawkeye's Mihawk, who destroyed all but one of their ships. Krieg feeds his men and is about to begin to attack the Baratai when Mihawk, having followed Krieg and his men, destroys Krieg's ship. Things become more dire when the group learn from Johnny and Yasaku that Nami stole the merry-go. Zoro challenges Mihawk to a duel in order to achieve his dream of being the world's strongest swordsman. Despite his best efforts, Zoro is easily outclassed by Mihawk and loses. Seeing potential in the young swordsman, Mihawk tells Zoro he has much to learn and will hold the title as the greatest swordsman until they duel again. Following his defeat, Zoro apologizes to Luffy for disappointing him and swears that until the day he defeats Mihawk, he will never lose another duel again. Luffy sends Zoro, Usopp, Johnny and Yasaku ahead to follow Nami so that he can defeat Krieg to pay his debt to the Baratai. Mihawk leaves after defeating Zoro, so Krieg continues his invasion. He has Pearl, one of his stronger crewmates, attack, and Sanji reveals his fighting skills, gaining the upper hand, but Jin takes Zeph hostage. With Zeph held captive by Gin, Sanji has no choice but to take Pearl's hits. He reveals that he worked on a cruise ship that Zeph attacked, and when a storm hit, the two were the only survivors. Zeph sacrificed his leg to save Sanji and gave him food, as both shared the same dream of finding the legendary ocean, all blue, supposedly the only place in the world all four seas, north, south, east and west, meet and where different aquatic species lays there. No longer able to fight with his legs and be a pirate, Zeph founded the Baratai, and Sanji reveals that he will defend the Baratai with his life. A lengthy battle ensues between Gin and Sanji, but he does not have the strength to kill the man who saved him. He then begs Don Krieg to leave the Baratai alone, but Krieg is just disgusted and pulls off one of his shoulder pads and turns into his deadliest weapons, the MH5 poison gas bomb. Most people run off and Krieg fires the MH5 while Luffy steals two masks from two Krieg pirates and throws them to Sanji and Gin. He turns round to get another for himself, but the pirates have vanished. Out of nowhere, a gas mask lands in Luffy's lap and he puts it on, just as the MH5 impacts and explodes. It is revealed that the mask Luffy was wearing was Gin's while he held Sanji's to his face. Outraged, Luffy runs for Krieg, who pulls out his spiked porcupine cape and covers himself, but Luffy punches right into it, striking Don Krieg in the face. Even after taking several hits from the battle spear, Luffy refuses to give up and manages to take Krieg with a powerful blow. After the battle, Gin decides to go back to the Grand Line with Krieg despite still being poisoned, and Sanji makes the difficult decision on whether to stay or to go with Luffy, just as Yasaku comes back with news that he knows where Nami is. The crew chases after Nami, who stole their ship, and Yasaku takes time during the trip to explain about Arlong and his fishmen to Luffy and Sanji. Meanwhile, Usopp, Johnny, and Zoro arrive at the island Nami docked at. Zoro is captured by the fishmen after Usopp and Johnny ditch him. And it's revealed that Nami was part of Arlong's crew the entire time. When a group of fishmen attack Kokoyashi village, Usopp comes to the rescue. After Zoro escapes with Nami's help, she tries to prove her loyalty to the Arlong pirates by appearing to kill Usopp. Meanwhile, Luffy's group finally arrives at the island. Johnny tells the others about Nami killing Usopp, and Luffy doesn't believe them until Nami appears herself and confirms it. She tells them to stay out of her business and leave, but Luffy stubbornly decides to stay. Usopp returns, revealing that Nami only pretended to kill him, and Nami's sister, Nojiko, starts to explain why Nami is acting the way she is. She tells them the story about Nami's childhood and their adopted mother, Belmere, a former Marine. After a bloody battle in a small village between pirates and Marines that left her the only apparent survivor from both sides, Belmere found a toddler Nojiko holding an infant Nami. Taking the girls back to her home Kokoyashi, Belmere decided to adopt Nami and Nojiko. Despite being poor and none of them being related by blood, they had a happy life. It is shown that as a child Nami was a prodigy in cartography, the study and making of maps and charts, and navigation. Nojiko continues her story, explaining how their life was ruined when the Arlong pirates first took over the village. Arlong forced the villagers to pay him in tribute or be killed. 100,000 berries per adult and 50,000 per child. When the fishmen arrive at Belmere's house, she tried to fight back but is easily subdued. Having only 100,000 berries, Belmere uses it to save Nami and Nojiko, which results in Arlong killing her. Seeing a map skillfully drawn by Nami, Arlong kidnaps her and shanghais her into joining the Arlong pirates to make maps and charts for them. Arlong does make a deal with Nami that if she can gather 100 million berries for him he would free Kokoyashi village. It is shown that for the last 8 years, Nami has stolen countless amounts of money from other pirates, thus explaining why she stole the Going Merry from the Straw Hats. When a Marine officer under Arlong's pay confiscates all the money Nami stole over the years, in order to one day buy the village from Arlong, the villagers decide that enough is enough and fight back, despite Nami's pleas. Knowing they'll be killed, the villagers rush to Arlong Park. Upon seeing Nami's sorrow, the Straw Hats head for Arlong Park. They begin to face the fishmen themselves as the villagers watch from the sidelines. However, after using a new move to take out the fishmen see King Momo, Luffy gets his feet stuck into the ground and Arlong traps him in the ocean and Zoro faces the six-sword-wielding octopus Hatchan. Using Johnny and Yasaku's swords and fighting through his injuries, Zoro is able to take him down. With Hatchan defeated, 2 of the fishmen battle Sanji and Usopp. Things look grim for Sanji as he attempts to face Kurubi underwater, and Usopp gets the chance to prove that he is a brave warrior by facing Chu. After a rough fight, Arlong's officers are defeated. But Sanji and Zoro prove to be no match for him in their current state. However, with Luffy finally free, he goes on to fight Arlong. Not long after, the battle begins and spreads into Arlong Park itself with neither of them holding back. When Luffy realizes Nami was forced to draw charts for Arlong, he becomes enraged and with one massive blow he defeats him and destroys the whole park. With Arlong's reign of terror over, everyone start to party and as the crew celebrates Nami reflects on her hometown and decides to officially join the Straw Hat Pirates. As a result of defeating Arlong as well as defeating Don Krieg and Buggy, Luffy now has the highest bounty in East Blue at 30 million berries. News quickly spreads to both friend and foe, including Shanks, who celebrates Luffy's arrival into the world of pirates. The crew arrives at the town before the entrance to the Grand Line, Logue Town, the place where Gold Roger was both born and executed. They stock up on supplies and sightsee. As Luffy heads for the execution platform where Roger was killed, old enemies are searching for him. While looking for new swords to replace the ones shattered by Mihawk, Zoro meets a woman named Tashiji, a Marine Sergeant Major with a passion for swords, who looks exactly like an older Kuino. She notices that Zoro is carrying a rare sword. Zoro, who has little money, inquires about a cheap sword, which the owner says is cursed. After an impressive test of the sword, the owner lets him have it for free, along with another rare sword he said should belong to a true swordsman. Usopp manages to anger the daughter of bounty hunter Daddy the father, and finds his own life at stake when he challenges Daddy to a duel, which he proceeds to lose. When Daddy discovers that Usopp is the son of Usopp, he recounts how he lost to him. Upon hearing this, Usopp issues a new challenge. Daddy challenges him to shoot a weather vane or he will kill Usopp. Usopp shoots the vane through the crown and wins the sniper goggles that were in dispute. Meanwhile, Buggy and Alvida show up and capture Luffy before they decide to put him on the platform to be executed. Zoro and Sanji show up too late to stop Buggy, but a bolt of lightning shows up just in time to cancel the execution. Soon after, Smoker catches Buggy and Alvida and follows Luffy. Meanwhile, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji run into Tashigi, but Zoro defeats her reluctantly. However, when Smoker catches up and tells Luffy that he must get through him to go to the Grand Line, Luffy isn't able to effectively fight Smoker due to the latter's plume fruit powers allowing him to turn into smoke. Just when Smoker is about to finish off Luffy, a mysterious man named Dragon saves him. A green gust of wind blows through that lets Buggy and Alvida escape, and allowing Luffy and his group to get away. During their time on sea, the Straw Hats proclaim why they are going to the Grand Line: Luffy to become king of the pirates, Zoro to become the world's greatest swordsman, Nami to chart a map of the entire world, Usopp to become a brave warrior of the seas, and Sanji to find the All Blue. Shortly after, they sail to Reverse Mountain, where the force of the ocean causes the current to flow uphill and down into the Grand Line.